Oh, people are saying hi. And we are live.
Awesome. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Already got some people tuning in. Awesome. We'll give everyone a few minutes to log in.
Mm-hmm. I've got my water. I've got my smoothie. Ready to rock and roll. Mm-mm-mm. I feel like we should have music in the background, like the waiting music.
I know, right? Next time, on the list for next time.
Right. Hi, Alice. Hi, Sweet. Hi, Tasha. KK.
Hi, Nita.
So, guys, we have about 200 people who are joining us today, and about 37 of you guys are already in. So yeah, we'll just give it another moment. And yes, so we have this question, the Q&A and the chat on the side. If you have any questions while we are going through this, please post them there. We can't, unfortunately, because of the platform, we can't really see everybody. So I can just see Oksana, and I'll be able to see Dr. Carrie when she joins as well, but I will not be able to see you guys. So any questions you have in the chat, and the person who's not speaking, be it Oksana or myself, we will try and moderate and answer the questions as they come along. So this will be recorded as some people aren't able to attend. So Robin, yes, we will be sending out the recording later on.
Wow.
Nice. So just getting started here, guys. Again, so we're really, really excited about this kickoff, and part of it is that we need to help spread this message to other women. So if you aren't already following WealthCo, it's wealth.co. Just keep in mind that there's an H in there. So WHEALTH.co on Instagram. And our hashtag is share the wealth, again, with BH. So we'll give everybody another couple minutes. There's about 40 people already in. So
awesome, yeah.
So if you haven't gotten a glass of water or a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever liquid
or a couple hours, it's gonna be good. I'm almost done my coffee already, so should have made more.
Yep.
I kind of wish that we could see everyone's faces too. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people don't like to be on camera, so I understand that.
Also, for anybody who, I'm sure that many of the people who are joining are coming because of Dr. Carrie and how incredible and amazing and how much information she has in her brain. It's insane. But if you aren't already following her, she's fantastic. She does Instagram lives. She does a number of different kind of posts and things that make it very, very simple to understand your hormones. So if you're not following her, she is a wealth of information and has a lot of fun ways to explain metaphorically how your hormones work. So I think it's Dr. Carrie Jones on Instagram. Okay. Well, we've given people some time, so again, the recording will be live, or it will be available later. So why don't we just get started, because there's a lot to cover. So we're kicking off. So this is a kind of a multi-faceted day. It's not just going to be just our kickoff. It's also going to be Dr. Carrie with her Q&A. And then also we want to cover some things. So for today's menu, if you will, we want to cover quickly our mission and our journey and where we want to go. Why this is so important and why this is the right time now to be doing something about this. Then we want to cover the platform. So if you haven't yet joined the platform already, then you should have, you can join us on wealth.community and you can get the link that way. Otherwise, just reach out to Oksana or myself and we can figure out a way to get you the link. It's a platform that is off of Facebook. It's a private platform so that we can avoid any censorship and we can really easily and nicely share information without really having to think about, all others kind of censoring us potentially. Going forward, then we'll have an hour of Q&A with Dr. Carrie Jones. We will run through that pretty quickly probably, but that again, we've gotten a number of different questions that people provided. If you have more questions, then throw them into the chat. And if we have time, then we'll try and cover them. If we aren't able to cover them today, we'll figure out a way to get you an answer. I'm going to then just tell you a little bit about my personal story. I think part of this community is also just being vulnerable and understanding that health and the symptoms that we have are not who we are. I fell into that trap and I kind of felt that these symptoms that I had, which I'll tell you about, were always going to be there, and that therefore that was me, and that I was weak and I couldn't get over them. So I'll just tell you a little bit about my story. We have a giveaway winner that we are going to announce, and then if you have any other questions, either about the platform, about where we're going, about any of the things that we talk about prior to the end of this, and then let us know. So with that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit of a story first about where we are today in terms of research, in terms of kind of the spectrum of health. So this is a study, or this is it's about 5 years old, but the fact is that right now cardiovascular health is the #1 killer for women. Now, of these studies, right, of 100 studies, about 30 of them will actually have clinical trial subjects, which include women. Now, of that, 30% of them actually report results by sex. So from a research perspective, one of the problems that we have now is that research isn't specifically focusing by gender. Now, a heart attack in a man is presented very, very differently than a heart attack in a woman. So in reality, while heart attack doesn't seem to be a women's health issue, it is a women's health issue because our symptoms present differently, and therefore the research should be done differently. So one problem is that the report results are not factored by sex. One other fact that I found really interesting in looking into women's health is these stats. So women are 2 times as likely to have anxiety and depression as men. Women are 3 times as likely to be diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, such as multiple sclerosis. Women are 4 times as likely to suffer from migraines and headaches than men. That's a problem, right? And again, all of these are not women's health issues. They are not the typical women's health things. They are things that are overarching health problems that end up actually impacting women a lot more. 7 years. So 7 years is endometriosis is a health issue, a hormonal imbalance or a women's health issue that impacts, they say, between 1 in 10 and 2 in 10 women. So on this phone call, we have about, I think it was 50 people the last time I looked. Of those, a very, kind of 5 people would have endometriosis. Now, the problem is that because it is such a pervading and how disease or the symptoms are so difficult, it can take 7 years. 7 years to diagnose somebody with this. So you don't know what it's for those 7 years, you feel out of control. You feel that, that you go to various doctors, you go to specialists, and they don't know. They either shrug their shoulders or they say, well, we've ruled this out, but we don't know what it is. So this is one of those things as well, where it just takes a very long time for a diagnosis to be done. 8 out of 10. So 8 out of 10 pharmaceutical drugs in the years in between the years 1997 and 2000, they were taken off of the market due to severe adverse effects. So 8 out of 10 had more adverse effects in women than they did in men. And so they actually ended up pulling those drugs off of the market. So women, so in terms of this beautiful mix, and I know that this is a lot of negativity to start this conversation, but it's important. It's important to understand what the situation is so that we can actually do something about it. So we have this beautiful mix of research that's skewed and not divided by sex. We have certain diseases that end up being more prevalent in women. We have diagnoses that take ages to actually diagnose us, be it endometriosis, be it PCOS, be it many of these other things. And then with pharmaceuticals, typically because they were done on men, again, in the research, right, they were done on male subjects, then they weren't necessarily reviewed and, reviewed for women. And therefore, then women end up having a larger adverse effect on these pharmaceuticals because they really should be taking only half the dosage or a lower dose. So it's a big problem. It's an endemic problem. It's a systemic problem. So what can we do about it? Well, one of the things is we can say enough with bikini medicine. Bikini medicine is a term that I just recently read in the book XX Brain, where basically it was the idea that doctors would treat patients as if they were the same, men and women, with the only difference being that women should be treated slightly different for the areas that were covered under a bikini. All right, so just the reproductive organs. But women's health is not just the reproductive organs. Women's health it's the mind, which includes your brain and your emotions. Your brain, again, that book XX Brain, I think it's called, by Lisa Mosconi. She looks into how our brains, our form and fit and function are completely different than men. Emotions, we experience emotions very differently. From a body perspective, I mean physical, reproductive, energy levels. And then from the environment, how the environment is impacting all of these things as well. Are we putting on makeup that has pesticides that are seeping in through our skin? So it ends up being that women's health, again, is not bikini medicine. Women's health is not just the reproductive organs. It is all of these different things that can present differently in a woman's body than it can in a man's body. So it ends up being all these dots that are all around that combine together sometimes makes it seem like it's very difficult, and it makes it seem like it's very complex. So what's the answer? The answer is to become your own health explorer. Michael Jackson had a song. It was "Start with the Man in the Mirror," and I think that's kind of the same thing here. We as women and men as well. That doesn't matter about sexes, but the idea is that nobody else is going to have as much interest in your health as you will. So starting to explore that and starting to understand that this health really is a journey. And yes, you're going to have moments where you're going to have a thunderstorm and you need to cover, or you need to figure out what is that path and traverse it. Now, doing it on your own is kind of difficult. I'm not a doctor, right? I don't know all the intricate details that Dr. Carrie knows about hormones. So it is an element of you have to educate yourself, you have to test on yourself, and then you have to integrate. So this idea of testing, it's not done willy-nilly. It's not done without support. It's done with a support system. So that, and I really like this picture because it's our health kind of is these sails, and is this journey of recalibrating those sails depending on what the wind is. So in our case, from a health perspective, yes, our hormones are very finicky, and in general, our life is something where we are going to have different things thrown at us. In my case, I had a massive concussion that completely took me out. That's something that I need to adjust the sails. I needed to take different supplements. I needed to recalibrate. And I needed to test that on myself, see what worked, and then integrate it into my daily life. So health, it's complex, but it's not impossible if you have the right ecosystem around you. And that's what we're trying to do with WealthCo. So when we're thinking about how we solve those problems that I was talking about in the beginning, how we solve those problems about research and about the fact that it takes forever for women to get diagnosed, or that you're taking too much of a dosage of a drug. How do you solve that? You solve that not on your own, but you solve that with doctors, researchers, entrepreneurs, and yourself in this ecosystem that's supporting you. That's what WealthCo's looking to do. That's what we want. So what our mission is, and what we have this lofty goal, which is crazy, but it's to action 25 new women's health research ideas initiated by this community. Why? Why are we talking about actioning research ideas? Initially, a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's just another support group, or it's, what are you guys doing? And it's, well, if we don't actually do research on it, on ourselves, then we aren't really pushing the needle. We aren't actually changing anything. We're just observers. And while observation is great, I want to do better for the next generation. I want to be able to have answers and teach my little cousins that this is what your menstrual cycle is about. And also, this is how your brain is different from the boys in your class. And this is why you don't need to act like them. You are beautifully different. So actioning these ideas. How are we going to do that? Or what is the plan? Because that's a lofty goal, and research takes time. So thinking about it, it's again a three-pronged approach. Apologies, I'm a consultant. I used to be a consultant, so I like chevrons, and I like 3 steps. But we have to educate first. We have to educate our women. We have to educate ourselves. We have to find out the things that was never taught to us. For whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. But right now, because we are these health explorers, because we are interested to say, all right, well, if I start fasting, for example, what does that do to my cycle in the next month? All right, if I fast for 12 hours, I'm okay. If I fast for 24 hours, not so okay, right? I end up having whatever it is. My sleep is affected. So education is the first step. Now, the way that we're going to be doing about that is with webinars like this, with podcasts, with Q&As directly with doctors. A lot of the feedback that we got was that people wanted to have these Q&As directly with doctors. They're not necessarily getting an hour worth of time with their gynecologist. So they're saying, okay, you know what? I get an hour worth of time with a specialist, and I can ask all my questions there and learn from each other. Because many of the questions that I have are questions that probably somebody else on the webinar has as well, and health guides. So the first thing is educating. Going forward, then it's the idea of citizen science. So research is always tough to get to if you don't have an inkling of saying, well, there's a potential here. There's a potential. So citizen science means within our community. I mean, we have 200 women on the call right now, right? So let's say we did a test on our own with 200 women. How incredible would that be, in that we actually get to, to showcase that something has worked for 200 women. Maybe it's something small. Maybe it's saying red light therapy is fantastic for, healing a C-section scar. Maybe it's something of saying, when fasting on this particular week in my cycle, I end up having this and this reaction. It's starting with our community, so that the third step, we can test and we can integrate it. We can test it with doctors. They can say, oh, okay, so this worked for 200 women. Fantastic. Maybe this will work for my clients. Or maybe even saying, okay, there's a research grant that wants to start something on women, but they don't know where to go. They don't know where to start. So they look to us. They say, this has worked for 200 women. Fantastic. Now we can go and do a controlled test, placebo, double-blind placebo-controlled test on women. And then it can actually get into the mainstream. So that's a thought. Now, I know I'm kind of going over time, so I'll go quickly, but this ecosystem is the way that will actually work. And what I mean by that is we have influencers, we have a lot of health coaches, we have a lot of nutritionists, we have trainers, we have RDs, we have a lot of people who want to do really well and want to do good for their clients, but they don't actually have a place to go to say, okay, this is the latest in women's health research, or this is the latest in science. This is the latest in what other people have seen. That's where this comes in. So what I beg of you all, and where this is really a community effort. This is not, building a brand. This is not egoic. This truly is saying, all right, let's bind together and let's work together to figure out, to educate everybody around, right? Educate women, and then also push the boundaries farther. So, on the call, we already, and in the network, we have PhDs who are looking at light. We have people who understand hormones like no other. We have people who have cured themselves of Crohn's disease. We have people, there are people out there that are really, really knowledgeable. And so with this network, the idea is to share that story, share the data, and really have an evidence-based approach to actually understanding women's health. So just like a lot of other communities are popping up, or a lot of kind of other folks, there is a forum aspect to it, which we'll go through now. We will have product offerings. So we have a number of companies that have come to us to say, listen, we really like the idea of supporting women. One of whom is fantastic, and I'm drinking it right now. It's called Tu Sol. It's an amazing smoothie mix. And I think Ingrid's on the line. And she helped kind of cure her own Crohn's disease with her own product. So health resources and guides, again, just the 101, the basics that we never were taught in school, and then live expert events like this. So there's a whole ecosystem around, but the key is also that this community is yours. We've very much started the outline of the puzzle, if you will. Right now, it's up to everybody on the call to help us fill this in. So use the platform, post things, post questions. Just use it as much as possible. And if you don't like something, then let us know, because we can probably change it up and make it better for you. So with that, we're going to switch over now to Oksana to look at the platform, and then we'll switch over to Carrie, which is the main course of the entire event, and we can talk about hormones.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dasha, for that awesome segue. And I know I'm right in between, the platform and Carrie, so I'll do this quickly. I'll just turn my screen share on and walk you guys through the platform. So let's see. Share this. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So everyone should have received a link. If you signed up for WealthCo either through our Instagram page or directly on our website as a pre-registrant, as well as attending this event as well, everyone received a welcome email yesterday that we sent out with a welcome link that you can use to log in right directly into the platform and start playing around with it. So on today's call, we just wanted to give you a quick walkthrough of how to use the platform and the 3 things that you can get started on. So the 3 things that we're going to cover today is logging in and creating your profile. 2 is creating your first post, and exploring the discovery platform. So when you log in, this is what you will see as the interface. And what we would love you to do is to create your profile so we can get to know you better and really start connecting with members in the community, get to know your story, your health journey, what are you dealing with, or what are you optimizing right now? What are you really interested in learning more about? So here's Dasha's profile as an example of what someone may have on their profile and how you can fill this in. So a quick little summary about yourself, just introduce yourself, have fun with it. Who are you? Say hello. You can see everyone's activities, so everything they've posted, their location, and their interests. So this is something you can choose to specify, so you can, again, start to get to know other members and connect with them in terms of what they're interested in. And we have several options that you will see when you're creating your profile online. You can also follow members that you connect with through the chat, or if you like what someone else is posting, or you're on the same health journey, you can use this platform as any regular social network. You can include your personal links if you have a personal website or your social channels as well, and then do a quick little introduction. So again, just have fun with it. We would love to just kind of get to know everyone and where they're coming from, what they're interested in, learning more about, and just something about yourself. So, favorite health tips, favorite supplements like Dasha has here, any great books that you've read, podcasts that you listen to, throw it in here. We want to hear it. And then lastly, you can specify your region and the topics that you're interested in following, because the topics, as you will see later, they will really help to personalize and curate your newsfeed experience when you log into the platform. So that's a quick little overview of creating your profile. Now, the second thing that we would love to see from you is creating a post. And this is so easy, just like any platform. Just click on the plus sign here, and you can select what kind of post you'd like to post here. So you can do a quick post, you can post an article, you can send out a question or a poll to the entire community, create an event, or you can also invite other members. So if you have friends that you want to send an invite link to, please do help us grow this community. Invite your friends, your sister, your mom, your cousins, and we'd love to have them on the platform as well. So we're just going to do a quick example of what some posts could look like. So the first one, it could be something simple like this, that someone posted about earthing for better night's sleep. So, if there's something that you want to ask the community, something that you're dealing with, or a question about health that you have, and you just want to hear what others have done for it, or, product recommendations, or, really anything. Here it was about earthing for a better night's sleep. You can just throw the question out into the community really quick, and see what others comment with their experiences. So that's an example. Or, you will see our events in here, book recommendations that people have posted. Saturday snapshot, Dasha posted the other day. And you can also go to the discovery, where it will really give you an overview of everything that's going on in the platform. You can just do a quick scroll of the latest posts, right here up top, where you see everything, all the polls, the quizzes, the events that were posted, just a quick scroll through so you can see any members near you. So again, if you fill out the location on your profile, just kicked me out there. If you filled out the location on your profile, you will also see the members near you. There are topics that you can click into. So when someone posts something, you can tag it with a specific topic, so that it makes it easier for you and for others who are following that topic to see that post. And you can follow different ones, of course, unfollow them, follow them again, really just personalize your experience. You also have your top members here. So whoever's posting the most, they'll be featured on this page here. You can click around, check out their profiles, what their health journey is about, which location they're in all over the world, and get to know everyone else on the platform. You have your upcoming events here also. So if you RSVP to an event, for example, here, if you click going, it will show up highlighted in your feed. And lastly, you have your top regions of the members on the platform. So discovery page is a really quick snapshot overview of everything that's going on the platform. You can, of course, also click into specific sections of the forum here as well, if you just want to look through topics, or you just want to see a list of our upcoming events. Everything is here. And lastly, you'll see your notifications up top, your profile, and you can start private chat with any member on the site too. So really just like any other social network that, we're used to interacting with, but this is specific to WealthCo and women's health community, and continuing that dialogue and discussion about women's health. So any questions about that, I'll be monitoring the chat window. And as Dasha mentioned, you can always register if you haven't yet on www.wealth.community. or pre-register on our Instagram. We'll also be sending out a follow-up email with an invite link to those who have registered for this webinar but haven't received the email yet. So without further ado, we will jump back to the webinar. That was a quick overview, but I don't want to keep you from our special guest here, Dr. Carrie Jones, to kick off the Q&A about female hormones.
Fantastic. Nice. Thank you. Thanks, Oksana, for doing that overview. And just again, in terms of the tool itself, the reason that we shifted over from Facebook was because we wanted to have a network where we could make it more of our own. So therefore, you could see those topics. So for example, right now we've kept it very, very big and broad. I think it's body, mind, environment. Now we've kept it that way because we want to see what the community actually wants and what you need. So if you we end up having conversations a lot about hormones, we'll make a topic on hormones. If we have a topic specifically on pregnancy, we'll make a topic for pregnancy. If it's, so we will adjust based on what the way that you're using the tool. So again, it's nice that we can change it up. And the other nice thing that we've noticed is that when kind of Facebook, you start scrolling through all the other things. You start looking at all the news that's going on, versus here, you can actually come here directly to your Mighty Networks platform, which is also an app, and you can download the app and have it on the go as well. So with that, let's get into this awesome conversation with Dr. Carrie. So welcome.
Yay, can you hear me? Make sure
Yes.
You can hear me. All right, perfect.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome.
Look at that sun shining.
For like once. Doesn't happen very often in the Northwest.
Yeah. So just as a quick introduction, everyone, you probably are here because you know who Dr. Carrie is. But if you don't, I'm just going to read this incredible bio, right? She's an internationally recognized speaker, a consultant, and an educator on the topic of women's health and hormones. I have started coining her as the queen of hormones because that's just what you are. And both men and women. So this is not, so for all your guys out there, she also has information about them too. She graduated from the National University of Natural Medicine. So she's an ND at the School of Naturopathic Medicine in Oregon. And she's also completed a residency in women's health, hormones, and endocrinology. She also has a master's of public health. So she has a really, really beautiful way of mixing both the clinical side of things, because she's seen patients and she's seen what works and what doesn't work, and then also the public health side as well. And then finally, she has shifted over to become the medical director for 2 large integrative clinics in Portland. And most recently, she is now the medical director for Precision Analytical, which has created the Dutch hormone test. So if you don't know about the Dutch hormone test, we will talk about it at the end, just because that really can take a whole hour as well. But it's a fantastic, in a snippet, it's a fantastic hormonal panel that you can have shipped to your house that gives you a lot of incredible information. So with that, we have had a number of questions sent to us. We only have an hour, so hopefully we can run through a number of them.
Yes.
But if not, then we'll figure something out later.
Perfect. That sounds good. I'm ready.
Great.
And they're great questions too. Everyone's got really spot on, dug in, serious questions, which is wonderful.
Yeah. And the one thing also to caveat, again, guys, everything that we talk about here, do not take it as medical advice. Do not, go see your doctor, go do all that kind of, all the exclamatory things that everybody says. But yeah, it is really good information that you are going to receive right now. But again, as an N of 1, as a health explorer, please go and research it on your own as well. So let's dive into it. We have, first up is menstruation specific questions. 1, what is the cause for a missed period? She's not pregnant, normal weight, and working out, not on any medications, and not stressed. So why would she have a missed period?
Well, if it's recently, it's oftentimes more your people are more stressed than they think they are. So stress is a big one. You don't have to be, things could be good in your world right now, but because the world itself is really stressed out, high cortisol, high adrenaline will feed back to the brain and tell the brain, hey, look, there's a lot going on right now. So maybe now's not the right time to have a period, or maybe don't ovulate, make it late, make it short, make it weird. And so the body does, it completely lot of women are experiencing in like March, April, May. They're experiencing really crazy cycles as a result. But if that's not it at all, it can be other reasons. It can be thyroid reasons. It can be from another hormone called prolactin. So prolactin can be increasing just a little bit. It could be a glitch in the system. I mean, it's a signal from the brain down to the ovary, and it could be just something that nobody knows just threw off the glitch or threw off the signaling. And so this month you skipped your period. It could be perimenopause. I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming maybe, maybe not. But if you're getting into your 40s and 50s and you're listening and you're like, wait a minute, I've never skipped a period in my whole life. What is this? That's entirely possible. But of course, if you were in your 20s and 30s, it's probably not perimenopause. But it could just be just sort of general hormone imbalance. So it could be gut reasons. I mean, any kind of infection, inflammation, if it's strong enough that it's cycled back up to the brain to say, hey, look, there's a lot going on. A period is not where we need direct resources right now. Then the body's like, got it. All right, no period.
Yep. I know a number of my friends have missed a period in the past 2 months because, again, it may not seem like we're stressed, but there is a lot going on right now.
Yeah. Even if you and your home are good and your family is good, it's everything around literally the whole world is kind of chaotic. So I've been here. I have so many comments on my Instagram of women who were like, oh my gosh, I didn't ovulate. My migraines were worse. My PMS was worse. I was 2 weeks late. I was 2 weeks early. It was super heavy. I didn't ovulate this month. I had my February into March and April were fine. And then this month I didn't ovulate and I was like, dang it, it got me. Yeah.
There's a lot of stress going on. Makes sense.
A little bit.
Okay. I get a headache during my menstruation. Is this normal, or can I say it's something about my hormonal status? Maybe
it's hormonal. It's usually a combination of estrogen and serotonin. So estrogen and serotonin play a lot with like blood flow into the brain and how spasms and in the capillaries in the brain. And so if you have too much estrogen, you can actually decrease your serotonin. And if you have not enough estrogen, believe it or not, you can decrease your serotonin. And it's the serotonin, migraine medications are often serotonin based, serotonergic. And so what we say is if it's women heading into their period, it's a withdrawal. They were high in estrogen and then it crashes because they're about to have their period. So they go from dominant to like nothing, and then they get the capillary spasm, and then they get a migraine. I'm very prone to these. I'm prone to menstrual migraines. This month, because I didn't ovulate, my hormones were all over the board. I actually had a migraine yesterday. I knew it was coming. But I knew it was coming once I didn't ovulate. Once I didn't ovulate, I was like, even though that's progesterone, it's a different hormone, I just knew by not making progesterone how I should, I knew by default my estrogen would be higher, and I knew that would bring on a headache. So I was really trying to prevent it, but it came anyway. Yes, estrogen is the big one.
So if this is something that's happening every month, let's say, or frequently because of menstruation, is there anything that we can do for that? Or is it just, a hormonal balance?
Honestly, I test. So I want to test to know if you come into your period low estrogen or if you come into your period high than low. And because I don't want to make your estrogen higher if you're already high, but I do want to help it. I do want to help like your liver detoxification. I want to help your progesterone production. I want to help you ovulate if you're not, which will then make progesterone, because you can release an egg and just not make very good progesterone. You could just have weak cells, or you could not release an egg and therefore you don't make progesterone. So there's no like one size fits all, but there's definitely a lot of help out there other than migraine medication. I mean, there's definitely like, oh, let's get you ovulating correctly. Let's get your liver processing this correctly. Let's get you sort of back into balance as you head into your period. And then that can really, really help migraines.
Yep. Okay. If your periods haven't returned years after stopping the pill, i.e. 5 years later, have you ever seen that women are able to still get it back after a while off of their pill?
Yeah. And actually you and I, am I allowed to mention books? Can I mention other people?
Of course, please do. No, that's the whole point of that's the whole point.
Yeah, okay. I was like, can I share? Can I just tell you all my resources? So my favorite resource is Dr. Jolene Brighton's Beyond the Pill. So Dr. Jolene Brighten coined the term post-birth control syndrome, and she wrote an entire book about what do you do if you go off the pill and you don't get your period back. So even 5 years later, when you go on the pill, for women who don't know, what it does is it shuts down the pulses from your brain down to your ovaries. So basically, it's like getting blocked on text message. You go to text somebody, but it never goes through because you've been blocked. It's the same thing. And so what happens is you have the influence of the pill hormone, which are synthetic, and you bleed every month. It's not a period. It's called a withdrawal bleed. It's a fake out bleed. And then when you go off the pill, the brain's like, well, I've been blocked. I've been blocked talking to the ovaries. So I'm trying to talk to the ovaries, maybe, and the ovaries aren't responding. Or maybe the brain just hasn't figured out its pulses yet to get it down to the ovaries. And so what we need to do is figure out how can we improve the communication between the brain and the ovaries to get that working again? Because it's literally just hormonal text messages that get sent, and that's what starts it. Now, having said that, if we go back to the original question, if you have a thyroid problem, if you have a prolactin issue, if you have high stress, all of these can be a tipping point where they can make you not get a period. So the pill, going off the pill was a problem, and on top of it, maybe you have a subclinical thyroid problem. Maybe on top of it, you have a little bit high prolactin. Maybe on top of it, your stress has been astronomical the last 5 years, or it's a combination of all of the above. It's just one right after the other. Yeah. So yes, I think there is hope to getting the period back. And actually, one of the things we do to see is what we call it a progesterone withdrawal. So you go on real progesterone for a number of days and stop, and then see if you get your period. And so I would have these women with amenorrhea, no period, and I would try this withdrawal, and if they got their period, sometimes it would be enough just to kick the pulses in, where the body would go, oh right, that's what we do. We have a cycle, okay. And sometimes just enough to help them. So there are some tricks, and there are definitely some ways to help, but I would highly recommend anyone who's gone off the birth control pill or any the patch, the ring, the injection, anything for birth control, read her book. It's literally a how-to guide by chapter. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and guys, again, that's Jolene Brighten. And there's another lady, Lara Bryden. Have you heard her book of Period Repair Manual?
There's I have them all up here. Here, let me show y'all. And then there's Nicole Jardine too. She has Fix Your Period. Let me I'll show you Jolene's just so everyone knows what it looks like. This is Jolene. There's Jolene. Yep. On the pill. And then this is Nicole's. It just came out, Fix Your Period. And this one's really wonderful, mostly because I helped edit it. And then this is Lara, who is wonderful. She's a Canadian doctor that lives in New Zealand. It's their Period Repair Manual. And they're all fantastic resources. So don't feel like, you can buy all three if you want to, but you can start with one and move to other. And the Period Repair Manual and the Fix Your Period are for like the women who are maybe not birth control. Maybe they're just like, I have horrible cramps every month. I have terrible PMS every month. I get bloating every month. Why do I have, diarrhea with my periods? Like, what is this about? Yeah. And so it can be more of a resource.
Yeah. And guys, we'll put all of these into the network as well, into Mighty Networks and WealthCo. So there'll be a section which just has all the different books, all the different things that you can read about, because it's easy to get to then. All right. How to achieve optimal health for postmenopausal women.
For postmenopausal women. So that's really a really good question. With postmenopausal women, when you stop bleeding for 12 months, that's when you're technically considered menopausal. You can still have all the symptoms: hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness. Whoever really designed menopause can suck it. Because yes. Really, like, we go from, like, we are designed to carry the babies, right? And populate. And then, like, our reward at the end is like, congratulations, you get menopause. Here's vaginal dryness and like wrinkles and, hot flashes and night sweats and joint pain. Whatever. So anyway, first of all, with menopause, ladies, you got to start early. So for those of you who are still in your 30s and 40s and not yet menopausal, this is the time to start. This is the time to dial in your what you eat and how you sleep and how you hydrate and your relationships and your stress response, because it only gets harder as you go through menopause. And the reason is the cells on your ovaries, your follicles, are not able to produce the hormones like they used to. So you used to have high healthy levels of estrogen and progesterone and even testosterone, and then you lose all those cells as you go through menopause. And as a result, we feel the deficiency, and that's why we have all these symptoms. So really, really, really what's important are all the basics. It's how we're sleeping, it's how we're managing stress, it's how we're taking care of ourselves, it's our relationships, it's all those things. It's because things get harder as we get into menopause. Our ability to handle how we balance glucose and insulin gets harder. Things dry out. Our joints, estrogen is lubricating, our joints dry out, right? Our bones get have a higher risk for osteoporosis. Our brain gets a little more foggy because we're having to make lists. We can't remember names anymore, which is also super common in stress. So those of you right now in the pandemic who are like, I feel like my memory is shot. Do I have dementia? You don't have dementia. What you have is cortisol affecting the memory part of your brain. And so we're used to be really, sharp and on it with all the stress. And now with like, you're working from home and your kids are home and you're trying to homeschool and the world is falling apart. It's a lot for the memory system. And quite frankly, the memory system's like, I don't really want to remember this. This is not what I want to remember. So with menopause, I work with women I test them. Where is your estrogen? Where is your progesterone? How is your testosterone? What do your adrenal glands look like? What is your cortisol output? How are you absorbing your foods? How are you taking care of yourself? And so there's a number, I use a combination of like nutrition and vitamins and herbs. And even if I need to, hormone replacement therapy. And keep in mind, hormone replacement therapy is a very broad term. Like thyroid medication is hormone replacement. Melatonin, technically by definition, is a hormone. DHEA, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, these are all hormones. So you don't have to do them all, but maybe you'd benefit from 1 or 2 or 3 here and there. So that's how I work with my postmenopausal women, is really try to get them to realize that it's kind of reverse puberty, and they, what was working isn't going to work anymore, and we have to change it up. We have to meet them where they're at. Yeah. And it still sucks. And when I am in charge of the female body, when I'm given that, talent, I will make some changes for fertility and menopause, but I'm apparently have a long wait. So yeah.
Please do it for all of us. Just get rid of menopause for all of us.
I'm taking notes. Yeah. I have an entire list of things I would optimize. Not necessarily, I don't want to change women. I just want to like tweak a few things, optimize. Right. Like you want to get pregnant? Totally. Just like flip a switch. Right. Don't want to be pregnant? No problem. Flip a switch.
Done. Exactly. Yeah. So for postmenopausal, it's unfortunately kind of the answer sounds like it's complex.
It's complex. Yeah.
And it just depends. It depends on a lot of factors. So just like, it comes down to, again, you can't change what you can't measure. So you can't, unless you test it and you understand exactly what is going on in your body, you can't actually say, oh, this is what I need to tweak. Right. All right, this is what I need to change.
Right. But definitely understand it, ladies, as you're going into perimenopause and menopause, everything is changing. You were literally losing the cells that make a bulk of your hormones. Other cells in your body can make them, just not the degree that the ovaries did. And so women will say to me, like, I hit 45 and what used to work isn't working anymore. Why is that? I'm like, because it's reverse puberty. We're unfortunately losing those cells and we have to make changes. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Shifting topics to one that's become really interesting to me, actually, is fasting. So fasting specifically for women. So a lot of the books that I've seen, a lot of the documents is all about fasting, and it's intermittent fasting, not eating for only 8 hours, not eating for 16, or doing multi-day fasts or doing dry fasts. I think there's not enough research that's out there about women and fasting. So I guess the question for you is, what are your thoughts on fasting, and when during your cycle would you recommend to fast? And what approach to fasting do you recommend? How long and how often?
So I like fasting. I like intermittent fasting. I've read the research on intermittent fasting and how it helps with like aging and reducing metabolic syndrome risks, and giving your gut a break and helping with blood sugar, insulin, like all of those kinds of things. So I do like intermittent fasting. I personally do my goal is to do 14 hours of fasting. Sometimes I'm just not hungry and I do 16, and sometimes I'm dying of starvation and I get 10. So It just is what it is.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it a long while. I've been fasting intermittent fasting 7 years now. When I became serious about it. So I've got it pretty well figured out in my body. So when a woman is like, well, I'd like to try this, where do I start? I tell every woman the same thing, like exactly what you said. There is not enough research on women, right? And women are not small men, and women cycle. So some women will start like, oh, I'm going to do intermittent fasting, but they're on day 26. It's their biggest PMS day. And we've just, like, it's probably not the best day to start. Ideally to start to try it out is probably more in your follicular phase, when your estrogen is nice and robust and you're feeling more like Wonder Woman, and you can handle it better. Your bleeding is done. And so some experts will recommend women should cycle with cycling, like they can intermittent fast in the first part and then add in more complex carbs in the second half, because they help with some of the PMS type symptoms and the hormonal balance stuff. And then alternate back and forth. Other women have been doing it a while, that they do the same every day, and they actually feel great. They feel great whether it's day 1, they feel great whether it's day 18 or 28, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so what I tell women is just try. So just start out with 12 hours. Start out with, you go to bed at 8. No, you don't. Just joking. You stop eating at 8. You stop eating at 8, and then you don't eat again till 8 the next morning, or whatever you do, 7 and 7 or 6 and 6. And just try it. And if that's too much, then make your window more like 10 hours, and then gradually extend it by a half an hour, and just see how you do. Now, there is some research to show that women, especially women with PCOS, do better if they eat breakfast and get done eating sooner. So that's another like fun variable to play with. Like, should eat big in the morning when your insulin and glucose are at their like most prime, ready to help, and your hormones are at their highest. And then lunch is a little lighter, and then dinner is a lot lighter, and then be done. It is hard in our society, though, because we do so much around dinner. We do so much around, well, we used to, going out, right? And events, and, meeting somebody for dinner or drinks, or, a birthday party or something like that, a work event. And it does make it harder if you're going to work later in the evening. So you can also cycle it. So you can, on the days you're not having events or what have you, you can do intermittent fasting starting with breakfast and be done sooner. And on days you have to go to a work event when you're allowed to again, then you can just shift it, which I know I'm making this extremely confusing for women, but basically you just have to start somewhere. So if you snack all the way up until you go to bed, stop doing that. Stop snacking more around like 8 o'clock.
Yep.
And just start there. Right.
Yep.
And if you have your mocha, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe try pushing it to 7:30.
Yep.
And then try pushing it to 8, like that sort of stuff. If you typically don't eat breakfast, but you're not doing well as far as stress and energy and weight and focus, like maybe add in some breakfast, but be done with dinner sooner. Yeah. So it's just see what you're doing, take a really hard look at what you're doing, and then baby adjustments from there.
Yeah. So one for me, fasting. So I was always petrified about it because I really like food, and I would think that I would get headaches, and I would say, okay, well, I can't not eat because I'm going to get headaches, and then I'm a horrendous person to be around. But this year I played around with it with a friend of mine who really kind of helped me into it. And I think that there's an element of that, of the support network around you. So what I've even started doing is now fasting every Tuesday. And it's become really interesting to also see how difficult or easy it is where I am in my cycle. So this past Tuesday was day 23 of my cycle, and it was ridiculously easy. No problem, no issue. But a couple of weeks ago, it was not fun. Right. So a 24-hour fast, start Monday night and then end Tuesday night at dinner is what I've been playing with. Also playing with, even fasting the first 2 days of my cycle when estrogen is so high that, I'm not, somehow it doesn't bother me at all. So I think there is an element, if you're just starting to get into fasting, unfortunately the answer is there isn't enough research. So we need to do something about that and kind of play with it. But I think that it's not a game of you must show off. And if it, I must get to this number. It's like, if your goal was 24 hours and you only got to 20, great.
Yeah.
Next week,
yeah,
do 21.
That's what I tell people. People will, because like I said, my 14 hours of fasting is on the average is what I go for. Sometimes it's 16, sometimes it's not. And I get questions. Women will ask, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know? And I'm like, because I'm starving. because my body's like, eat something. I mean, I've definitely woken, like if I had a terrible night's sleep, if I have a lot of stress, if I maybe worked out, I tend to work out in the morning, fasted. But if like for whatever reason, let's say I worked out in the afternoon or the evening, and the next morning, if I wake up hungry, wake up starving, I'm not going to be like, no, I still have 4 more hours until I can eat. I'm like, man, I'm starving. I'm eating right now.
Yep.
And listening to my body. And then other mornings I sleep great. Everything's fine. I wake up, I drink my green tea. And then, eventually I'm like, oh, I should eat now. And then eat whatever I'm going to eat. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Next one. Is fasted runs in the morning okay for women endurance athletes?
Honestly, the only way to know is to try. Right? I work out fasted. I feel the best when I work out fasted. I do not feel that great when I've eaten. And I have good girlfriends who say the opposite. They're like, oh my gosh, I would throw up if I did it fasting. I've tried it multiple times. That doesn't work for me. I have to eat something and then do whatever I'm doing. Now, I'll be honest though, I don't do endurance runs. So I don't know if I could run, an endurance length completely fasted. But when I do my lifting and my HIIT training and what I'm doing in the morning, I do it fasted and feel amazing.
Yeah. It probably takes a little bit to also get used to that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Hormonal. It's the next topic. As a breast cancer thriver. Yeah, right. As a breast cancer thriver, why do they want to block my estrogen? So
that's such a good question. It's very controversial. So estrogen's not bad inherently, right? Estrogen gets vilified. It's the thing that causes breast cancer. It's the thing that worsens endometriosis. It's the thing that made my fibroids grow. I hate estrogen. Estrogen's the worst. But estrogen's actually really, really helpful for women because it's the thing that, early on is helping our brain stay healthy. It's helping protect us against cardiovascular disease. It's helping our collagen stay nice and healthy. It's helping our bones stay nice and healthy. Like it does a lot for our mood. It's very intricately involved in serotonin and dopamine and acetylcholine, all our great neurotransmitters. So we need estrogen. We absolutely need estrogen. So with breast cancer, though, if you have estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, what your oncologist is saying is if all your estrogen in your body could bind to that receptor and make it grow. So even though you're a survivor, you don't have breast cancer anymore. As humans, we always have cancer cells to a small degree in our body. Always. You are not diagnosed with cancer because your immune system takes care of it. But having a cancer history, what your oncologist is trying to do is to prevent the 1Z, 2Z, 3Z cells that are naughty, that your immune system's trying to take care of, from the estrogen going in and causing proliferation again. And so that's why they usually do something like tamoxifen, or they'll do a aromatase inhibitor to get the estrogen way down. Now, the problem is, and they recognize this in the oncology field, the problem is now you've got a woman that you're blocking her estrogen from binding to receptors, and now she has all the brain fog, and now she's aging faster than she wants to, and now she's at risk for osteoporosis, and now she has joint pain, and now she has vaginal dryness, and now she is having hot flashes and night sweats, and now, and so it becomes a real problem, because what do you do for that woman who needs her estrogen to be a woman, but yet she also has a history of thriving after breast cancer? It's an extremely hot topic right now, since we're looking at books. My favorite book in the whole world is this book called Estrogen Matters. Estrogen Matters. When you and I talked about this, it's by doctors.
Yeah, I just got it because of your recommendation.
Blooming, and Tavris. Blooming and Tavris, Estrogen Matters. And it's a really, really, really great look at the Women's Health Initiative, which is the study that freaked all women out everywhere about breast cancer and estrogen. and how poorly designed it was, and how actually, oops, some of the data that came out of that was not entirely true. It was very muddy. The results were very muddy. It's a very expensive research trial that went on. A lot of politics were involved with it. A lot of the women they recruited were actually not that healthy. They encouraged women who were having pretty bad menopausal symptoms not to be a part of it. The majority of women in it were older, not in your like prime menopausal range. But they talk about estrogen in general. So even, and they talk about breast cancer, because what do you do? So now the big debate, now all the research that's coming out since then is really, there's a lot of researchers out there that are like, estrogen is really important for women. And we don't actually know, if that woman who asked that question, like maybe she never took estrogen. Maybe she's like, there's women never did the birth control pill, never took estrogen, and still got breast cancer. So, so how do we know that it's actually estrogen is like the big cause? Like maybe it's all the environmental toxicants. Maybe it's, the things that are in our food. Maybe it's genetics. Maybe it's a combination of all the above. And estrogen is actually a smaller percent than we really think. So the reason they want to block it is because you have had a history and they don't want the estrogen to bind to the receptors and get it going again. But on the flip side, I have estrogen breast cancer women who are estrogen receptor positive, who are like, forget this. They're working with oncologists who are willing to put them on estrogen to protect their brain and their heart, their bones, and they're just monitoring them. Right. And doing all the things. And so it's a real battlefield in the oncology world of doctors who are firmly against estrogen. Mm-hmm. And then there's some who are like, no, women need this. Like we would never take testosterone away from men to this degree. And just ruin them. It's tough.
You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yeah. Knowing that, at the end of the day, you want to get to that middle ground of you need some estrogen, but what's too much, what's too little?
And how do you protect yourself? Yeah. How do you need some estrogen, but then how do you protect yourself? And is there anything you can do around it, right? Like, can you take DHEA? Can you take progesterone? Can you take like some of these other things? Would your oncologist allow that? And I'm starting to see this pop up more, like there's DHEA vaginal cream companies coming out, because in the literature, they're showing that the low dose DHEA is not increasing estrogen systemically to a concerning level. And so they're like, it's okay. It's been approved for women who have vaginal dryness and pain with sex post breast cancer because their estrogen's been taken away. And so like you're starting to see these companies and in the literature come out to be like, we kind of have to like help these women. They're suffering. And what are we sure estrogen's all bad? Like, can we get around this somehow?
Yeah.
Which is
encouraging. There are so many breast cancer thrivers and survivors now. There are, it's an incredible number and it's fantastic, but now you're stuck living with a number of symptoms that doesn't make life too pleasant.
Right. And I don't ever want their breast cancer to come back, like I'm definitely not like ever, telling them, I'm not at all saying like, well, just take estrogen. Like it's definitely very individualized. If you have the genetics for it, then no, if your lifestyle is one where we could do a lot of cleanup and we could do a lot of help. Maybe you've had a lot of exposure. There's so many things that go into the creation of cancer. There's so much we don't know yet.
Yep. Not even to mention also genetics that play into it as well, and epigenetics. So many different elements.
Yeah.
All right. So shifting to the next question about, this is a big one. What about the influence of hormones on microbiome composition, leaky gut, and immunity? I know it's complicated, but I would like to have your precious opinion.
Yes, huge. And actually, so it's with the microbiome and leaky gut and what have you, it's actually the other way around. It has the bigger influence on hormones. And so your gut has huge communication with the brain, as we know, and your gut has a lot to do with how you excrete or reabsorb your hormones. And so if you have a lot of gut inflammation, if you have a lot of gut microbiome issues, you actually could be reabsorbing hormones that were tagged to be excreted. So you could have a lot of excess estrogen in your body because your gut is like, yeah, come back to the party, come back on in, even though it's your estrogen's trying to leave the party. And so that can cause a lot of problems for men and women. The gut also makes its own hormones. You have part of your microbiome, you have bacteria that actually can make hormones and can make like our neurotransmitters. And so if you have a dysfunctional microbiome, you can have a dysfunctional production of some of these hormones. It's not to the degree like what the ovaries make, but still it's part of the whole system at large. And so it can cause a real problem. Now, as far as the immune system, your hormones absolutely have a huge impact on your immune system, estrogen in particular. In fact, you'll read articles now with COVID how they're in fact giving men estrogen, right? They're starting to give men an estrogen because they're noticing, even in China, that the higher death rates were in men as compared to women, and they were thinking it had to do with estrogen. And so or estradiol in particular, E2, which is the most potent estrogen that we have. It's the one that really binds to receptors and does the things. And so estrogen has a huge impact on our white blood cells and our just like how we make and how we do and how we fight and inflammation. And yeah, it has a really big impact, which is why women will say, why do I feel flu-like when I get close to my period? I'm like, well, because all your hormones are coming down. All your hormones have dropped down and they're affecting your immune system negatively. And so you feel kind of flu-like, sick-like, achy. And so, in fact, some people call it the period flu because your hormones are at the lowest level, very low when you get your period, and then gradually start to go up again, your estrogen in particular. So, yeah, so your gut has a huge impact on your hormones and of course your immune system. Most of your immune system's in your gut anyway. And then your hormones have a huge impact on your immune system as well. Yeah. It's like a spider web. If you just plink one little part, like the whole thing vibrates, right? You can't just focus on hormones. You can't just focus on the gut and think nothing else will change. Everything will change. It's all connected.
Yeah. I love that what you're saying though, in terms of twofold. One, in terms of what's happening with COVID and them using estrogen potentially. I sent that article to a male friend of mine, and he's like, "No way! Even if I have COVID, I'm not taking estrogen. No chance."
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting. But then also, I mean, you are a hormone specialist. You are and yet it's what I love about what you're saying is basically start with the gut first to some extent, because the gut is actually going to impact your hormones. So if you do have a leaky gut, so if you end up saying, oh, well, I have a hormonal imbalance. Well, the first thing isn't necessarily go fix the hormones. The first thing is go fix the gut. Right. Go fix also your lifestyle. And, I know that you talk a lot about kind of sun exposure in the morning and light kind of coming through, especially after to help with that cortisol awakening response. Right. So it seems like on the one hand, it's very, very easy to say, oh, I have fill in the blank hormonal imbalance. Therefore, I need exogenous hormones, right? I need hormone replacement therapy. I need the pill. I need fill in the blank. Where in truth, it's how do we get your system to start healing itself a little bit more first from the gut, and then the hormones will follow.
Right, because the hormones are never. The problem. They're the problem in that they're causing symptoms, but they're never the cause. Like there's like when somebody says, "Well, I don't ovulate. I have low progesterone, so give me progesterone." I'm like, "Well, we can. I mean, that's a pretty solid band-aid right there. But why don't you ovulate? Like, let's backtrack and figure out why you're not ovulating. Is it from infection, inflammation, and stress telling the brain it's not safe right now? Don't do it. Okay, where's the infection, the inflammation coming from? How are you handling your stress? Is it from thyroid issues? Like I said, is it prolactin? Are you excessive exerciser? Do you have disordered eating? Like, are you on a medication that's going to affect your ovulation? I mean, there's so many rabbit holes, but it's also good for women to realize that this is why it's important that you don't just start on progesterone. Again, it's a great band-aid, but when women are like, well, if I start this, when do I stop? I'm like, once you figure out the why, we still have to figure out the why and then get that fixed.
Yep.
And the gut is definitely a huge starting point. Huge.
Yeah. Okay, next one. I am a thin, normal build out, but most of my fat is located around my stomach. I have difficulty getting rid of the belly fat. Do you think these are, again, hormone related or hormone imbalances?
Probably much more cortisol, insulin, and glucose. So when you've got that belly fat, that's typically what the hormones, those hormones put the fat there around the belly. Yep. So definitely looking at, how you're handling stress, testing your cortisol, testing your epinephrine, norepinephrine, which is adrenaline and noradrenaline, getting a fasting, insulin. Consider getting one of those continuous glucose monitors, the ones that go right there in your arm. Because, you know, so many people, they are eating healthy. It's not that they think they're eating healthy. They are eating healthy, but then I see it all the time on social media, and they'll get a continuous glucose monitor and they're like, holy crap, that healthy superfood doesn't work for me. It completely spikes my glucose every time I eat it.
Yeah.
Like it's just because it's labeled as superfood doesn't mean that it's just your superfood, you know, like it could really affect the way you make glucose, which then affects the way you make insulin, which then affects the way you store fat.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So that belly fat may be something to do with the foods you're eating that may seem to be healthy, but they spike your glucose and stress and lack of sleep potentially.
And lack of sleep. Yep.
This is my question. So during this time of stress and COVID, where, you know, we think that things are normal, you know, and I'm starting to experience things like, and we were talked a little bit before about loss of period, but lack of sleep, dandruff in my hair. How much is that also a hormonal imbalance?
Oh,
and,
huge.
And how quickly does that come back from, you know, so let's say tomorrow the world opens up back again and we're back to normal. When are we all going to get back to normal from a hormonal standpoint?
It'll take probably a solid, so it depends how long it goes. So let's pretend it's tomorrow. So let's pretend we've been dealing with this really since like March, end of February, March, April, May, right? Let's pretend tomorrow, whatever, a light switches and
a magic wand comes around and everything.
Right, exactly. Thor comes to Earth. It's all saved. We have no virus. Everything's good. So from this point, it would probably take about 3 to 6 months. The longer it goes, though, then the longer it's going to take, you know, to get back. But from this point, it's going to probably take about 3 to 6 months. So in our hair, so all the women asking about hair, our hair follicles have their own little mini stress system in there. They deal with cortisol up in our hair follicle. They also handle things like testosterone, our androgens, and they're very reactive to it. So when you have a lot of stress right at the hair follicle, cortisol can push hair growth into hair resting or hair fallout. So hair fallout into hair resting. So right now, a lot of women are like, I'm losing so much hair. What's going on? I didn't change anything. I'm like, well, but the world is falling apart. So the hair follicle is responding. And so it'll take about 3-ish months once it's better for you to move back into the growth phase. If you did nothing, if you do absolutely nothing, but just sort of wait. And the same thing with your androgens, your testosterone binds to your receptors, and you get, you know, women are like, I'm having cystic acne. I'm having more acne lately. I'm like, well, cortisol increases sebum. And that sebum is, you know, on our skin, and it's mixing with dead cells and bacteria and whatnot and clogging our pores. And it is also binding to the receptors and like in our jaw. And so on our chin and like under here, under our neck. So we're getting that like super awesome neck acne and jawline acne. I know.
Joy.
I know. So yes, absolutely. Hormones are affecting all of it right now.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
with dandruff as well. That's also. Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
So 3 to 6 months from now, we'll be back to normal. Great.
Maybe. We'll be back to normal again.
If
exactly.
Tomorrow there was a magic wand.
Yes. I'm still looking for that magic wand. If anyone's got it, let us know and use it.
Yeah. I'm seeing certain questions come through that some have to do with the conversation, some don't. Somebody just said alopecia areata. Do you know
that's autoimmune? Yeah, that's an autoimmune hair loss. So that's actually different. Now it can be worsened by what's going on right now. So if you thought you had your alopecia a little under control or slowed down, and you notice that right now it's picking up again, it's because cortisol can have a big impact on it.
So again, that alopecia is potentially cortisol related. Or cortisol
is autoimmune related. So, but a sped up alopecia, if you're losing your hair faster, that part could be cortisol related. Cortisol is probably not the reason for the kickoff of the alopecia. Yeah, that's an autoimmune thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just noticing time. We have about 15 minutes left. So just shifting, it goes quick.
I know.
So shifting over to birth control. Oral contraceptives does oral contraceptives regulate any symptoms caused by a normal period? Mood swing, acne, craving, energy fluctuation. What are the pros and cons aside from preventing pregnancy for a healthy individual?
So that's a really good question. I'm not against the birth control pill. If a woman wants to go on it or needs to go on it or what have you, I would never stop her from going on it at all. I mean, I used to prescribe it when I was when I saw patients. but I would definitely do a lot of education around it. Like, look, you're going to go on the birth control pill. It's going to take over your hormones for them and put your own hormones to sleep, and it's going to do its thing. And so here are the side effects you should watch out for. And I'll go over the side effects. And then when you come off the birth control pill, hopefully your own body will kick back in and you will get your own period back again. But if you don't, it's called post-birth control syndrome. And we have to do things to try to jumpstart that signaling, that text messaging again, coming from the birth control. Now, the birth control is a really great symptom manager, 100%. If you have severe endometriosis, if you are suicidal with your PMS, if you have really bad cramps, if you're really irregular, heavy periods, like it absolutely can swoop in there and like wrangle the cats. Like that is what the birth control is good at. But what it doesn't do is fix the problem. It's a really great immediate, I can't live my life like this anymore. And so women will go on the birth control pill to prevent acne, right? I've, really bad acne. It's embarrassing me. I can't go out in public. It's affecting my job and self-esteem. Their doctor puts them on birth control pill. Their acne clears up. They feel better. The problem is when you go off of it, all those things can come back. So let's say you go off of it because you don't like it anymore. You go off of it because you have side effects. You go off of it because you want to get pregnant. And now here comes back your acne and your severe pain and your PMS. And so you have to just understand that if you go on the pill, it is just a straight Band-Aid. And you'll want to work with somebody to like clean up your gut and clean up your liver and get you the right nutrients. The birth control pill is very well known for depleting nutrients, especially your B vitamins. So not always, but often a pharmacist or your prescribing doctor will say, go on a multivitamin, go on at least on a B complex on the birth control pill because of all that it depletes. And we don't want to do that for women. We want you girls to have all those vitamins. Yeah. So the pros and cons, like pros, it's a great Band-Aid, and pros, it does prevent pregnancy. Cons, there's an entire book called Beyond the Pill of side effects that women potentially have to deal with after the fact. Yeah. So that's the problem that you may have to clean up.
I think the question would probably be for this person who asked the question, it's okay, is the pill the best thing for you, or are there other options?
I would go with the other, unless you're going for straight birth control, like unless you're like, look, I don't want to get pregnant and nothing else works. I don't want it, I don't want to be IUD or any of the other things, rhythm method condoms. I don't want any of that. I want the pill. That's great. But if you have all those other symptoms, absolutely there are other options to help improve them that don't require the pill. Yep. The pill is an option, but it's definitely not the only option. There are a lot of others out there that you can avoid the pill.
Yep. And I think that there's more science coming out and more conversations coming out about how the pill has reverberating effects on women. Right. It could be, either if you've been on the pill, then years later you have a greater predisposition for depression or anxiety. It can be that it has potentially an effect on the brain. So I guess my question or my comment to anybody who is thinking about the pill or on the pill is to educate. Yep. There's Sarah Hill is a fantastic researcher who has written a book specifically on birth control and the brain. So that might just be something to look into. Right. A question that just came up: low DHEAS and testosterone with normal estrogen and progesterone. Does this need fixing, and how?
So I can't give you medical advice, but I can tell you that DHEA is my favorite hormone. If I had to pick a favorite hormone, it's DHEA because of all the benefits that it does to the body, to the brain, to everything. So, and DHEA in women are made in the ovaries, and it's made in the adrenal glands. And so it's made in two places. And so I am a really big fan of DHEA and testosterone. I think it's important to have healthy levels.
Okay. So it's not fixing, it's more just
trying to get the body to get them up again. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Back to birth control. I took birth control for 10 years, then I had a 2-3 year break, and now I have a hormonal spiral. Is my hormonal system affected after being exposed to so much external and unnatural hormones? How is the best way for me now to rebuild and reestablish my natural?
It could be. There's some research to show. In fact, I was just reading it yesterday, but I don't remember what our journal article was that said that anyone on the pill, I believe it's more than 5 years, but it actually could be more than 10 years. Like there's some permanent changes that happened. And so one of which in particular is it increases it's a binding globulin called sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, which basically is a bus that pulls hormones onto it to drive through your system. And its favorite hormone is testosterone. And so if the more SHBG you have because of the birth control pill, the less your testosterone is, because all your testosterone's on the bus and it can't get off. It like traps it on the bus. And so a lot of women go on the pill because for whatever reason, let's say pregnancy, but then their sex drive drops. Right. Or they've been on it for 5-10 years and they go off of it and they're like, I have no libido. And we test and they have really low testosterone. It's a permanent shift that the pill does. And so that's just like one of, a few things, unfortunately. However, there is a lot of things you can do because you probably weren't taught, to get your B vitamins back. And you probably weren't taught that a lot of it has to do with communication from the brain to the ovaries. So let's improve communication from the brain to the ovaries. So yes, read Dr. Brighton's book, and that's a really good start.
Okay. And multivitamin, B multivitamin.
Yeah, multivitamin, get your B vitamins.
Okay. So the answer is yes, it's possible to do something about, maybe it's not possible to get it back to complete normal levels, but there is something that can be done potentially.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Exercise according to menstrual cycle. So HIIT versus yoga versus, do you cycle your exercise based on your cycle?
I don't intentionally, like me personally, I don't intentionally, but I definitely know as I'm getting closer to my cycle, because I'm just, I just feel blah, so I don't want to do HIIT and I don't want to go extreme and I don't want to go hard. I want to go much more gentle and nourishing. So I don't plan it that way. I'm just like, I don't want to do kettlebell today. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do something more nourishing. So yeah, I think a lot of women inherently just know that. They'll be like, all right, I feel like Wonder Woman today. I'm going to hit it hard. And then maybe leading up to the couple days of their period, they're like, I don't want to go for that 10-mile run. Like that sounds awful. I'm like, then do nourishing things instead.
Yep. Agreed. Say it was kind of a similar question about training according to a menstrual cycle. We've had a number of those questions actually. So best time to do strength training versus high intensity running.
So strength training, most women tend to feel better in the follicular phase because their estrogen is at the highest. Your estrogen really, really peaks. It's supposed to. It peaks really high to encourage ovulation. Mm-hmm. And so that's when women tend to feel the best and the strongest. And then in the middle of your cycle, right at ovulation, your testosterone is usually the highest because the hormone that triggers ovulation also triggers big testosterone production. So women feel in the mood around ovulation, and then they feel stronger as well because they have all that testosterone. So then after that, when progesterone comes out, you can absolutely still do your HIIT and just pay attention to your body. How do you feel? Do you feel like you need to be more like snuggly and nourishing because progesterone's out now, or do you feel like same and you can keep going? Like that's fine.
Yep.
And remember, ladies, your ovaries are sisters, not twins, which I fully realize twins are sisters, but lefty and righty don't have to do the same thing every month, right? So a lot of women just assume every month is the same. And for some women listening, it might be the exact same. And other women might go, oh, no joke, you're not kidding. Last month was like this, and this month is like this. And so I know I ovulate primarily out of my right side. I feel it. I feel the twinges. I'm like, oh, there it is. She's ovulating today. Mm-hmm. And then like this last month, lefty, I didn't ovulate at all. I'm like, dang it, lefty, get with the program. And so I didn't ovulate. I know, and I didn't ovulate, had a migraine. So, but other women are like, yeah, I have 2 great months and a bad month. I'm like, all right, you're rotating, And other women are like, oh, I go back and forth. Or other women are like, I'm very dominant. I'm the same every month.
Yep.
And then I get a weirdo. I'm like, oh, I wonder if the other ovary went. I wonder if you switched.
Yeah.
So, and unless you feel it or you happen to have an ultrasound, you're not going to know, because women are like, well, what test can I take to know which side? I'm like, well, if you happen to have an ultrasound around your ovulation, then they'll tell you like, oh, look, you ovulated on the right side. Or like me, I get twinges in my like lower pelvic area around ovulation.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because I never knew that until I started tracking. And then once you start tracking, and I mean, there's a number of those different apps out there. You can say, oh, okay, you're right around your ovulation. And then you can almost train yourself a little bit and say, all right, when, around these couple of days, maybe I will feel something. And then you're just on the lookout for it, which when you realize it, it's really quite beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and your mucus changes, and like all these like cool stuff happens. Yeah.
Yes, we're all nerds here. Yes, we are.
Yep,
We all
totally.
want
It's our body.
chart.
I mean, we should be in tune, right? Like it
Yeah.
just makes us better and better for it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, a couple of questions about specific diseases and symptoms. So specifically SIBO and then PCOS. So SIBO, how do you treat SIBO? It's a pretty big question.
SIBO's a hard one for me. SIBO's not my area of expertise at all, so
Okay.
I'm gonna deflect that one. SIBO, for those who don't know, is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And I live in Portland, Oregon, and Allison Seebecker and Stephen Sandberg Lewis are kind of the two big SIBO experts in the United States, and so I just refer to them because they're right here. And then in Australia is Nirala Jacobi. I think she's SIBOdoctor.com, and so Nirala is a friend of mine, and so I'm just like punt.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
We'll
no, and I'm glad you said that because we'll just probably have to get them onto a podcast as well.
And
or onto one of these
wonderful.
Q&As.
Yeah, Allison, Dr. Seebecker, Dr. Stamber Lewis, and Dr. Jacobi are great. So I highly recommend them.
Fantastic. So whoever asked that question, we'll get back to you when we have a whole hour with them. PCOS. Birth control didn't do it much for me. What advice do you have for women with this disorder?
So there are 4 types of PCOS, just for women, in case you don't know. So there's insulin-based PCOS, where insulin is obviously the big issue. Then there's adrenal-based PCOS, because your adrenals can induce crazy cycles, no ovulation, and can affect your testosterone, because some of your testosterone is made in your adrenals. That can cause the hair growth in the places you don't want, and the acne. And then there's inflammatory PCOS, so inflammation causing your PCOS symptoms. And then there's post-birth control induced PCOS. And so we just have to figure out which PCOS you have. If you wanted the birth control pill, my assumption is you probably had the insulin-based. That's the most common. And so insulin will tell one of the types of cells in your ovaries to make lots and lots of testosterone. So it really increases your testosterone. That causes the hair loss here. That causes the hair growth on our, like chins and necks and nipples, which is like so lovely. It causes the acne on our jawline that we don't want. But it can also, and then testosterone will affect the way that we make estrogen and then the way we ovulate. So we don't ovulate, we have no, or we skip cycles. And so it's all the classic sort of PCOS symptoms. And so really what you're doing is figuring out which PCOS do you have with your practitioner and then addressing that. So really getting dialed into like insulin and testosterone, or are we getting into the adrenals? Is it a combination of both? No problem. Is it inflammation? Okay, let's address your inflammation. And then for those of you who went off the pill, let's get that signaling from the brain down again and really help. And can you have like a little bit of everything? Unfortunately, yes, you can. So again, I know it seems overwhelming for women with PCOS, but I'm like, no, it's actually great because we can really kind of narrow down like, all right, this is where we need to focus. This is where we need to go. And in the interest of books, because I mean, why not, right?
Yep,
my two favorite PCOS experts are, one is Dr. Fiona McCulloch, and hers is 8 Steps to Reverse Your PCOS.
Bring it a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
Wait.
All right.
My light.
Perfect. No, it's perfect. It's good.
8 Steps to Reverse. And then the other is Dr. Felice Gersh. Hers is PCOS SOS. And then she just came out with a second book, PCOS Fast Track, I think it's called, and she's coming out with a third book too. And these are great, and they're fantastic practitioners. I love both of them. So
Felice Gersh, she's fantastic. I've been following her on Instagram. She does a beautiful job, just very similar to your approach of here's it is, no nonsense, here's what you do.
She's a gynecologist in Los Angeles, and she is just the sweetest thing. And she's just so pro women, and then she's just so pro education. And every time I hear her lecture, I'm just in awe. I just love her.
We'll have to get her on as well.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Last one, and then we'll just talk about Dutch, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So I have thyroid cancer and I am on Levoxyl. However, I've continued to have low energy and weight gain. What types of exercises might be good for me? Or would you recommend any natural supplements for increase in energy or things that can help with my weight?
Yep, absolutely. So Levoxyl is only T4. And so for a lot of men and women, they have the inability to convert their T4 into T3. And T3 is the active hormone. So actually for a lot of women and men, especially post-cancer, is that you may actually need a combination with T3, or you may need to add in some T3 because you're not getting that conversion. What makes that conversion is selenium is really, really helpful. So eating foods that are high in selenium, talk to your doctor about adding in selenium. But it's this peripheral conversion that happens, and it's really affected by, again, infection, inflammation, and stress and hormones. And so if you have dysfunction with all those things, then your liver and all those other tissues are going to go, ooh, we're not going to convert. We're not going to activate this into T3 right now. And then you still feel very hypothyroid. You could, though, have two separate things. You could have hypothyroid because of cancer and thyroid removal. And on top of it, you could also have lots of hormone dysfunction. You could have low cortisol. You could have low DHEA, low testosterone. You could have all sorts of, insulin, glucose, leptin issues. I mean, you definitely can have a lot contributing to fatigue, contributing to your inability to lose weight and still feeling kind of hypothyroid. And then the last thing I would say, which I should have said in the beginning, is that all of our hormones are made first in the mitochondria. So our mitochondria, we learned at school, are our cellular powerhouses, which is true. But the first step to hormone production is in the mitochondria. Some of the hormones then move out and get made in the endoplasmic reticulum. Cortisol circles back around and finishes off in the mitochondria. So mitochondrial health is really important to hormones. And our mitochondria are very affected by chemicals and stressors and inflammation. And our mitochondria like exercise. They want us to exercise. They want us to lift heavy things and get strong. That's what our mitochondria. They want us to breathe clean air and drink clean water. Our mitochondria like that. So with her exercise question, I would actually first look up, first test other stuff going on with her. I would test her T3 and see, what's going on with her T3. I would look for other inflammation. I mean, I would do a lot more workup before I said, oh, this is the exercise you need, because she could do the most perfect exercise in the world for her, but yet if her insulin's high and her T3 is low and her, DHEA is a mess, like, it's not going to matter.
Yep. Lovely and complicated, or complex.
Right. I know everyone's like, every single answer. You didn't give one. Y'all, if I had one supplement, if I had a magic supplement, I swear I would not hold back. I would tell you, I would like airdrop it all over the world for women just to pick up and start taking if I had it, but I don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of the problems, or many things, can be attributed to stress. So if there was one magic pill that somebody could just drop and, blow up stress, and then that wouldn't impact all of our hormones as well, that would be nice. So whoever comes up with that brilliant idea. And sleep. Yeah.
Getting good sleep.
Yeah. So I know we're already over time. Could you just quickly chat about Dutch and what it is, what people can get from it? Because from all the testing that's out there, it is a test, and if you could just tell us about it. But it's one of those things where if you have that baseline, then you can actually start doing many of the things that you've been talking about for the past hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So Dutch is an acronym. It stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones. It is an at-home test you collect. We have all urine, which is where you literally urinate on pieces of filter paper. It's kind of like taking a pregnancy test 4 or 5 times a day. You pee on the strip, let it dry, and you do it throughout the day because we're looking for your rhythm. We want to see your circadian rhythm. Our combo test is where we do dried urine and then salivary cotton swabs. So these little swabs you put in your mouth, get wet, stick it back in the tube. And that one is just a little more information. So it's a little more information. The Dutch test looks at all your hormones, pretty much all of them we've talked about today, except for thyroid. So it looks at your estrogens, all 3 of them, and phase 1 and phase 2 of estrogen detoxification. It looks at your DHEAS, your testosterone, and which direction they are headed. One of your directions can be more the acne, the hair loss, the hair growth in the nipples and stuff like that. The other direction is less likely to cause it. We look at melatonin. We look at cortisol. We look at your cortisol pattern in the day. Why are you tired? Why aren't you sleeping? We look at some nutritional markers, B6, B12, glutathione. We look at some brain neurotransmitter markers, so dopamine metabolite epinephrine, norepinephrine metabolite. And we also look at DNA damage markers called 8-OHDG. It's a fancy word, but really it just tells us like, are your DNA, upset and mad and damaged? And so they're releasing this as an SOS, or is everything pretty good, which is a nice marker to have. So it's a really easy at-home collection that you do. Once everything is dry, you mail it back to the lab, you get the results in about 7 to 10 business days via a secure portal online. And the great thing is you can order it without a doctor or a practitioner, but we highly recommend that you use a practitioner though to go over the results, because you're going to get 6 pages of pure results, all about you, all about your hormones, all about what's going on. And so we can help you at Dutch also find a practitioner who's doing telemedicine or near you once the country reopens. That can help you go over the results. And then we have a code. We have a coupon code for those of you who want to try it. So we have 2 test options, Dutch Complete or Dutch Plus. And the code is WealthCo50. So WHEALTHCO 50. And that will get you $50 off the Dutch Complete or the Dutch Plus if you want to try it.
Thank you.
Or if you're just looking for a practitioner, we can point you in that direction too.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thank you for giving us that discount for our members. That's fantastic. In terms of taking that test, is it smart to take the Dutch panel test now, given which situation we're in, so much stress and things like that? Or
should you wait?
Wait it out just a little bit. I don't know when to wait it out till, but.
Right. So it depends on what you're looking for. So I have had women that call me and they're like, so I'm always stressed. I have stress. I'm always stressed. This isn't, like this stress is bad, but it's just always stressful. So I'm like, we'll just do it now because it just seems it's okay. This is your normal, even though it's not normal. And then I have other women who are like, I have perfect cycles, but because of the pandemic, my cycles are irregular. I'm like, okay, don't do it, because normally you had regular cycles and everything was, perfect. And then we just need to get you a little further down the line when they come back again. Other women say, well, my cycles are always a hot mess. Always. It doesn't matter. December 2017, 2008, now, like my cycles are a mess. I'm like, oh, well then do it now because it doesn't matter. It's just a different reason, but same outcome.
It was a stress from having to sit next to your boss at work versus now you have to sit with your dog on your lap.
Right.
But your body's still stressed.
Exactly. So I tell women, what are you looking for? Do you want to see what you're like in a pandemic? Is this completely disrupted you, or is this just another same, what do they say? Same shit, different day, right? So it's the same stressor, just a different day.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you for giving us a little bit more of your time as well. There's still a number of different questions, but maybe we can table them for another time. And in the future, if we can, potentially get you to come on again, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so honored and I really appreciate it. And I'm super excited to be a part of this community.
Wonderful. Thanks again.
Yes. All right. Bye, you too.
Ciao.
Bye. And I'm back. I turned my camera off, so didn't distract from the amazing conversation. That was so awesome, and we got so many questions and so many comments. Thank you guys so much for participating in the chat. We're definitely going to be looking through those to see, if there's anything that we haven't addressed that maybe we can address down the line in our future webinars, because we're 100% going to keep having these types of events. But this is exactly the type of community feedback and engagement and participation that we're looking for, and we're looking to build on our platform as well. So please do continue on the WealthCo platform. We'd love to chat with you there and continue the conversation about all of these amazing topics, because these are all really important questions, and we all have a lot of questions and just completely different things that we're dealing with, because everyone's body is so different. Thanks, Dash. Are you on mute?
Hey there. Sorry.
Oh
I
my
think I was on mute. Yeah.
You were frozen. Like, do we need to hit the panic button?
No, it's Perfect. So guys, in terms of where we're going next, so there are a number of questions that we did not get a chance to answer with Dr. Carrie. So we will table them. We will make sure that they are answered in one way or another. And there's a number of different folks that she mentioned. Again, we will start having these regular question Q&As, these regular webinars. So again, if there's anybody that you specifically want us to come to have on as a guest, let us know. We'll do our best and kind of get those folks and those specialists for you. In terms of the next step, so one, I just kind of wanted to mention my story a little bit. I won't take too much time, but I think one of the elements of this entire platform and of this entire network is learning from each other. And also to me, I've noticed that when I do tell my story, that I get a lot of other women saying, oh yeah, actually I've had something similar, or that makes sense, or me too. So there is, I think part of this network is telling those stories. So for me, just kind of my health journey and where I came to this health optimization and biohacking space is, so previously I had been a consultant. I was doing the high life of flying out on Monday morning and flying back home on Thursday night, living in hotels, working God knows what hours, and just constant stress, constant go. A very masculine energy, a very just direct. And at 24, I ended up having a stomach ulcer. So because I was so stressed and because I wanted to make sure that I did everything as perfectly as I could, I ended up developing a stomach ulcer. Now, because my family had already kind of started looking into alternative ways, I ended up curing that stomach ulcer with food, with actually just carrot juice. I'm originally from Russia, and my Russian doctor said, well, if you want to cure this, and if you want to cure it, so you don't have further issues down the line, then why don't just on natashek, on an empty stomach, then drink that much carrot juice, fresh squeezed carrot juice every morning. Do it for 3 months and then come back to see me. Now, 3 months is not what it took. It took about a month and a half, and I came back, no stomach ulcer, absolutely fine. So that started my evolution of saying, wait, food, it really is medicine, or food can be used as medicine. I ended up actually going and apprenticing at an Ayurvedic hospital in India. I was thinking about becoming an Ayurvedic doctor because I started seeing how much and how beneficial food and Ayurveda and the old school way of thinking about medicine and a holistic body is. So Ayurveda was really interesting to me and really fascinating. And I was thinking about going down that path. But actually, fast forward, I'm making the story as short as I possibly can. But fast forward, I actually ended up leaving consulting and deciding to go and get my master's in neuroscience. Why neuroscience? Because that's a complete shift away from management consulting. The reason was because I had already had 5 concussions. I really liked kind of living my life to the fullest. And there was different reasons for those concussions. The first one being a massive car accident. The others were all sports related. But I had always had long-term memory issues. So, my family would be thinking about, remembering a vacation or remembering a story of some sort. And I would have no idea. I would, it would seem as if I was, pulling their leg or something, but I would have no clue. So I've always had some long-term memory issues. And when I decided to go and get my master's in neuroscience to say, I'm curious about learning more about this. And while I was studying and while I was in the program, I fell again and I had another concussion. This one was a doozy. This one was absolutely horrendous in that I completely had amnesia, depression, full on. I remember my dad called me one day and we were on FaceTime, and I was in London at the time, and it was just a dark, kind of a cloudy, typical London day. And he's like, "Oh, the weather outside is kind of crappy," and that was it. It was just waterworks. It was why are you attacking me? It was a complete I couldn't deal with it, and it was something where I ended up so I was having chronic fatigue. I was having headaches every single day. And while it wasn't necessarily a women's health issue, it was a silent issue, which I think a lot of women's health issues end up being, or rather not a silent one, but an invisible one, right? You know, when you're walking around and you have PMDD, or you have PCOS, or you have endometriosis, or you have any illness, which is not visible, right? It's tough, because I ended up going to 14 different doctors in 4 different countries, specialists, and saying, all right, well, I have these chronic headaches. What do I do? Oh, well, we'll do the test. Test doesn't show anything, right? And so what ended up happening was it ended up that chronic pain of 14 months of pain, of constant headaches and constant lack of energy. I mean, I'm fairly bubbly and awake and energetic person, but here I didn't have that anymore, right? I was a shell of the person that I was, and I didn't have answers, and I didn't have a path forward. I didn't have anybody really to support me, because who knows anything about concussions? And it's all so multifaceted that you don't know even where to start. And I think that was the thing that really got me into this. Wait, I'm the one that has to live with my body. I'm the one that has to live in this experience on my own every day. So while I can go to a specialist and I can go to a doctor, I can go and see them, and maybe some of them are going to give me 2 hours of their time. At the end of the day, I still have to walk away from that office and still live with a horrendous headache, or complete depression, or inability to sleep, or just not wanting to wake up the next day, because I know that the next day I'm still going to wake up with a headache. So it was a physical issue that ended up becoming kind of transforming more and impacting me more on who I was as a person, and kind of the emotional side as well. So to me, I ended up starting a organization last year called the Health Optimization Summit, and we had an incredible conference last year. And yet, when we were there, what we noticed, and kind of when I was traveling around to different conferences, I noticed that there really wasn't enough of a dialogue about women's health. And that's where this all came from. That's where, the story of kind of my personal story of saying, I need to take control of this, and I need to start educating myself and start chipping away at what are the little levers that I can pull, and what are the little things that I can do, and kind of corralling together my own ecosystem of doctors, of researchers, of entrepreneurs, and my own friends who had already been through something like this potentially. I created this little ecosystem around myself, and then saying, well, why doesn't this exist outside of it? Let's create this bigger. Let's support each other, and open the dialogue about saying, well, okay, yes, in my case, I was very bubbly, fine, normal, out at a restaurant or something, and then 2 minutes later, I needed to get out, right, with no explanation, and that was a tough conversation to have with people when they just said, well, what's the problem? What's the problem? So ultimately, yeah, I guess my point is just that. For me, I'm still struggling with some of my concussion issues, right? I still have post-concussive symptoms. I still have headaches every once in a while, but it's manageable. And I think that also the element of being able to have that conversation about about the fact that, I know that I hit rock bottom at one point, and I'm slowly working my way up, and having that open dialogue with people to say, and when I have these dialogues, then all of a sudden somebody will say, hey, have you tried this? Hey, what about this? I had somebody ask me, well, what about lion's mane? It's a fantastic it has neurogenerative properties. Why don't you try that? So like when you start opening this dialogue and saying what you're struggling with, or what you're working with, other people end up coming to the front. And I think the last thing that I just want to say is that for me, I was very, very hesitant to tell people about what I was, the fact that I had these headaches, or the fact that I really just didn't want to get up in the morning, or the fact that I didn't remember anything about the story that they told me yesterday, because I had such amnesia, right? I didn't want to say any of these things because it was, one, it would make me look weak. Nobody wants to be weak. Two, it felt like I was wanting a poor me. I wanted somebody to pity me. And in truth, that's not the case at all, right? In truth, and I think the last thing is also that I didn't want to be my symptoms. I didn't want to be the person with the concussion, the person with the chronic headaches, the person that doesn't remember anything. So I would just nod and smile, And in reality, all of that was a lie for myself, at least. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but for me, the more that I started saying, oh yeah, like I keep on having these headaches. I noticed that I have headaches, for 2-3 days after I'm on an airplane because I have electrohypersensitivity. And I know that these devices around me actually impact my headaches more. When I started having these conversations, how many of my friends came up to me and said, oh yeah, actually, I've also had a concussion and I also have a little bit of brain fog, or I don't know what to do when I can't remember something. It's like, okay, well, let's talk. Now I'm in a position where, because I've tested and I've talked to so many people, I can be a resource as well. So I think the moral of the story is, one, all of my fears about people thinking that I am my symptoms really weren't true. And two, a lot of people actually have learned about their own brain health by speaking to me, because now, after having to live with the symptoms for so long and pummeling all these experts with questions about concussions and my brain health, I know a few tips and tricks that I can share and I can impart. So anyway, that was more than I probably should have shared, or no, more time than I should have taken up. But that's kind of my story. So I think from the standpoint of the community, you don't have to share everything. It's not required. It's not necessary at all. But for me, at least, I think I would challenge you to say, what if you did? What's the worst that's going to happen if you did put a piece of the story or a piece of the thing that you're working on, right? And see what you get back. See if somebody has a hack, a trick, something that has worked for them that maybe you can try as well. So yeah, that's all I got. I think we're gonna do the giveaway winner now, and then
I realized that I never introduced myself in the beginning. I think we were so excited to kick off the webinar that we were just like, let's go, let's launch into welcome what we're doing here. So I won't go into a long personal story and maybe save that for next time. But Dasha and I met about a year ago, and we had this idea of sorts for this type of community that we were working on as a little project, but we really got serious about it in the beginning of this year when we really just kept seeing what a need this was. And my own background academically is in genetics and biotechnology, but I was really interested in longevity, anti-aging, health span, and lifestyle extension. And that's what got me into biohacking and health optimization. And then when you get into that, you start, dealing with, okay, what are parts of my health that I need to optimize? And so once you start on that journey, it just opens the bucket of worms, if you will, to learning more about your own health and, as a result, women's health, and turns you on to the fact that it's not a very discussed topic, and things that are popular amongst the biohacking community, like fasting or intermittent fasting, sometimes the 16-8 doesn't really translate to women the same way that it does to men. And so when some of these hacks or health tips get popularized, they're not always firstly tested on women. And so as we were just discussing this and meeting other women who were experiencing the same, issues or questions or challenges, I see the 16-8 diet, but I just can't do it. Is there something wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. We're women. Everyone's different, and we have these hormonal cycles. So I think it's great that we have so much engagement and so many comments just in the chats. We hope to have the same in the platform to continue this dialogue, continue the sharing of learnings, because we all know so much about our bodies, and it could be so helpful to someone else who's going through something similar. So continuing to share those stories and having that dialogue, we're just so excited about where this could go and just how many women this could help. So without taking up too much time, we can jump to the giveaway. I just wanted to give a little blurb, like
I'm glad you did. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go for it. Thank you. I'm glad you did. The other thing is we should probably give a shout out to a couple of women that were also part of the history of this. We have Kayla, Betty, and Inka. All of them, in one way or another, in other shapes and forms. We were working on the Women's Biohacking Collective last year, and the Biohacking Women group. It was 2 different groups, and everything is, basically we were thinking about doing a multimedia kind of platform, a magazine, and then at one point we had a Facebook group. So this has been a
few times. Like, what's the best format?
Exactly. So what we've landed on here is that, but we need to call that out for those 3 ladies because they're all doing incredible things and are very much part of the network as well.
Mm-hmm.
So giveaway winner. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So
your slide.
Oh, I'm sharing. Oh, sorry, guys. All right, so guys, we have a giveaway winner. We chose somebody, or Oksana chose somebody randomly. As a random draw, and this is our winner.
The veg chick, Shay. So hopefully you're on the line. Congratulations, winning our first giveaway. We're gonna have more of these, guys. Honestly, there's so many amazing health products that we all love and enjoy, and that we just want to share out with others too. And we look forward to your recommendations about what are your favorite products that you would recommend to others that you've been loving. We definitely want to hear about that. So just to introduce ourselves and everyone else to new amazing brands. And the other thing about these products too is that they're all female-led, female-founded brands, all doing amazing things, organic, clean brands that we can enjoy. So look forward to our next giveaway draw. We'll definitely have more down the line, and congrats again to Shay.
Perfect. And just to call out that I know 2 of the brand founders are on the line. So Elsie Beauty, Dr. Elsa Youngman is going to be on the podcast, which we'll be having and launching on YouTube later this week. She is a fantastic kind of PhD researcher on the skin, and they are looking into the skin and the gut microbiome. So take a look at Elsie, ALSI, and then on the bottom right, that picture of smoothies. So if you've been seeing me sip on this, it looks a little bit like chocolate milk, but it's called Tusol. Tusol. It's run by Ingrid and Ilana as well, and they're both part of the network. So if you go onto WealthCo, I think I've tagged a couple of, I think I called out Tusol. So if you have questions about the products as well, then please use the network. Please use the actual platform itself. Basically, we don't want, there's a lot of these kind of giveaways and influencers and companies that are out there which are doing really good work. But they don't always, 1, they aren't always science-backed, and 2, they aren't always getting feedback from actual people who are trying it, right? So as we continue to grow, we are going to invite these entrepreneurs, these founders to be part of the network, so that way you can also have this dialogue, right? I think one of the biggest annoyances that I've found is that I want to just talk to the person who created it, right? They created this product for a reason, usually, especially if it's a health product. So I'm just going to call out Ingrid again because, I really, really like her story. And it's, the idea that using her own product, she created the product because she couldn't find what she wanted out there. And creating this product, she was able to help heal herself as well as a lot of people in her own kind of local network. So again, what we're going to do is we will have these types of products. There's a product part of WealthCo, and as much as possible, if we do get any codes or things that we can pass on to you, we will. But again, the nice thing is that as these women will be part of the network, you can have a direct dialogue with them to say, I like the product, I don't really like it. This is what I'm finding as well. Maybe you're finding that it's affecting you in a positive way, and that can lead to to them trying out a test of some sort. Additionally, in the future, what I could envision us doing is with these products potentially having the ability to do kind of that citizen science that I was talking about in the beginning. So for example, you know, if there's a new sleep device or something like that. I have one in mind, but I'm not going to say it. That you know can help with rest and relaxation, but they have not yet done a study on women specifically. Maybe they'll come to us, you know, and we have a number of these conversations in place right now, saying, "All right, well, why don't we try this out with your women's network?" So potentially we can then give that over to you guys, and if you're interested in being part of a kind of citizen science discussion with these companies and trying a product out for X months and giving them some feedback on it, then we can include you guys in on that as well. But all of what I'm saying, we will put on the actual platform itself. So as we progress, as we have new products coming to us, new companies coming to us, or any new giveaways, we'll put that up there so you're aware. So in terms of the rest of the day or the rest of the time, now it's really just kind of Q&A on if you have any questions about the platform itself, any questions for Oksana, any questions for myself, anything that we can answer that, you know, not specifically medically related. We can go through the questions that folks put up there, but I assume that they were primarily for Carrie. So any questions on the platform, on where WealthCo is going, on future events, on future, you know, any future speakers that you'd like to have us have, anything like that, please let me know or let us know.
Yeah, we're welcome to feedback. And, you know, if you think of something after this webinar ends, we always have our platform and we're on there, right? So feel free to message us there or comment reach out on Instagram, where we love hearing from you. And so we're totally reachable, and we just want to continue building this community and make it as accessible and you know, user friendly for you, so that you're getting the value out of it.
Cool. So wonderful. I'm just hearing a lot of thanks. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. People are starting to drop off. So this will be recorded. Everything that we're going to be doing is going to be recorded going forward. So if you can't make it because of time zones, I know that we have a number of people who are in the UK, are in Australia, and things like that. Yeah, again, this will be recorded. So have no fear. Next, Oksana, do you want to tell us about what we have coming up?
Close off on an exciting note. We have more events to look forward to. Again, all our events are going to be posted on the platform. So if you just go into that events tab, you see our whole list. We have challenges running, webinars, live Q&As. They're all there. But our next two guest speaker events are with Dr. John Gray and Pamela Gold. So next Sunday, we're going to have Dr. John Gray on to talk about how women versus men respond to and manage stress. So pretty important topic, especially in these lockdown times that we're living in right now. He's the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, a long-time best-selling book. He's an absolutely incredible speaker, very entertaining as well. So I'm so looking forward to that talk next Sunday, and just learning more. Oh, there we go. That's the book.
This is the book. This is how many notes I've taken. It's a fantastic book, really good read. It was written in the 1990s, but a lot of it is still applicable.
Yeah, we just had to have Dr. John Gray join us, and we're so glad that, you know, he's able to give the talk on this. And then the following Sunday after that, on May 30th, to close off our launch month, we're going to have Pamela Gold. She's the founder of Hacked Fitness in New York, which is health optimization biohacking gym. It's incredible. If you ever are in town, do stop by. She's going to be talking about achieving minimal effective dose fitness. So fitness for women. So we're going to close off the month with that.
So a couple of things in terms of questions that I see coming through, and a mention about Pam. She is absolutely tremendous. I have rarely met a woman who beautifully combines kind of the strength and like the yin and the yang, right? The strength as well as the femininity. She has done a number of different things in her life. The most recent thing has been the Hacked Fitness, which is kind of like an Upgrade Labs in New York. Unfortunately, they did have to close their facility because of COVID, but they are her network and what they are doing is still very, very strong in terms of fitness and understanding the kind of what needs to get done for your body to be fit. And that doesn't necessarily mean be in the gym for 2 hours. So she's going to talk specifically about, you don't need to do it for 2 hours, but this is the minimum stuff that you need to do to actually continue being fit and being optimal. In terms of the questions that I just see coming through here, such a great platform. What do you say about men being involved? Are they not welcome in this space? So a really, really good question. I'm very glad that you asked it. So our thought initially was that women don't really have necessarily a space to have these dialogues, right? To talk about kind of hair on their nipples, to talk about things that are potentially uncomfortable. Now, would are men not would men benefit from having this information? Absolutely. But for now, what we're going to do is try and limit it to just women in the space, so that women really do feel like they can share, be vulnerable, be able to kind of be in this space. Going forward, as the platform evolves and as we can understand how we can limit certain portions of it, then we can potentially open that up to say, okay, this is going to be a section of the platform that is open for both men and women, and maybe women kind of sharing some of the information that they think that men should know as well. There's no way right now within the platform for us to actually kind of stop men from coming into it. So no, it's not an absolute no. But I think that, from what we've seen so far, it seems like more women are going to be interested in this information and probably be more comfortable to be vulnerable and share their stories if they knew that it was more of kind of a safe space with only women. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is that's a really good question, and one that's tough. It's a tough question.
Yeah, we got another great question there from Simrita. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Are there state-wise chapters? I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm looking to connect with fellow Wealth Code enthusiasts. So glad you asked that question, because Dasha and I are actually both biohacking meetup organizers in our respective cities. So I'm based in Toronto, Canada. Dasha's now in the California area, but back in Boston, Dasha founded the Boston Biohackers Meetup group and was the organizer of that there. And so with bringing WealthCo, to fruition, that was definitely something that we had envisioned as well, of having WealthCo chapters in various cities where we could have those live in-person events and those live in-person connections, and just, sharing the stories in person. Unfortunately, with the situation that we're in right now with COVID and the lockdown, it's not something that we can just kick off at this moment, but it's definitely on our list. And down the line, if that's an opportunity, we would love to do something like that to allow that to happen, because those in-person connections are so amazing. And those are the times where you really connect and share and learn together, and form a community locally as well, not just online. But for the time being, let's all connect on the platform. That's what we have the technology for. But down the line, I'm definitely looking to have something like that as well.
Yeah. And I think Samrita and anybody else out there, if you do want to start a chapter or start a section on the platform, and you find that that's really helpful for you, then just let us know. We can, right now, I think the regions are specifically large regions. So there's US, we split up the US into a couple of sections. There's Europe, there's Canada, and there's Australia. But we can definitely change that up. So if you find that that's beneficial to you, we can do that. I also think that in the profile portion as well, you should be able to actually put your location. If I'll double check that now, but if you're specifically looking just for people who are in your area, then you should be able to search the different members and see who's there if they've put that in their location. So yeah, those are two other points that might be of interest to you.
You can search by posts that were written by people nearby as well. So that's a great call out, Josh. You can definitely search by regions and connect with those that are in your area.
Yeah. Catherine, yes, a book about concussions. The book that I enjoy kind of just talking about the most, it's called When Brains Collide by, I believe it's Michael Lewis. I'll send it around. And I also have a kind of like a one-pager of all the things that I typically share out to people about concussions, because I've been asked it quite a bit. So if you message me in the platform, then I can send you that link, and I can send it out in general on the platform if people are interested in Concussion 101. Yeah, it's concussions are something that many people have. Many people don't realize that it impacts them still. So you were a kid, you were running around, you fell, you bruised, you didn't think twice about it. Now there's, 20 years later, 30 years later, it still has a reverberating effect, potentially. Concussions are tough, and they're very, very tough to heal as well, because if you think about it, a concussion, your brain cannot be immobilized. So if your brain, like if you broke a wrist, you'd immobilize the wrist, right? And it could heal. A concussion, it's very difficult to immobilize your brain because you're always using your brain. So therefore, it takes a lot longer to heal. But yeah, it is possible. It's also quite interesting if you have had a concussion, or if you're interested to see whether it has impacted your brain. There is a company called Wavi, WAVI. They are fantastic. They can do a brain scan that takes 4 minutes. The technology that's out there right now is incredible. What used to be hundreds of dollars in a hospital for a QEEG, these guys can now do it, again, in 4 minutes. Is it as detailed as the QEEG that you would get in a hospital? No. But if you're interested, and if you think that you potentially have some sort of implications from an old concussion or an old injury, then I would highly recommend Wavi. A lot of sports folks are using it, and it's not that expensive. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on concussions.
I mean, we're going to be posting more, of our favorite products and books in the platform also. So that's something that we're looking to start threads about as well. So if there are any books that you think are helpful about women's health or about these kind of topics, please feel free to post them there, because I'm sure, there will be others who would love to know.
And then Sui, I just posted, you had asked, what is the web address of the platform? I just posted that in the question section. For a recording, it's wealthco.mn.co. So you should be able to click on that and then sign in, and you're off to the races. And then in addition, again, I would just say, please download the app, because if you have the app, then you can check it on the phone and you can get notifications there as well. So yeah, right now it is, and I think we mentioned this in our newsletter, which we'll send out again on Monday with some more information. But right now we are giving everybody a free 3-month trial of this. As we're growing, as we're checking out to see what works, what doesn't work. But then going forward in 3 months' time, we are going to have a number of different tiers. So based on what you find appropriate, based on what you like, what you want, and how you're using the platform, then you can select which tier you want to be part of. But again, one of the big things that kind of both Oksana and I are passionate about is spreading this information to women. So we're not going to make it too expensive, because then that's a barrier to get information out there. So it's just to kind of help the platform work, so that so we can actually, make this sustainable rather than, just kind of make it sustainable going forward. So let's see. Well, any other questions? If not, then that sun is calling me, and I'm going to go for a little bit of a sit in the sun, get my vitamin D, boost my immune system. And
so needed. Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone, for logging in. Hope you enjoyed our very first webinar event. And I know I posted in the chat, but if you have any amazing takeaways, learnings, things you learned that you didn't know about before, or that you think would be helpful or useful for other women in your life, please do share them out. Please tag WealthGo or our hashtag #ShareTheWealth so that we can continue to grow this women's health community. Our intent is, to empower women to harness their unique biology. We are unique, but the more we know about it, the more we know how to work with our bodies and truly optimize how we feel every day.
Woo, 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 woo. All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your Sunday. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on WealthGo on the platform.
Bye.
Cheers.